Yeah, so I'd moved to Atlanta in 2006. I was relocating with my employer down there. A couple years later, a friend of mine moved down, and I went with him to this small group. And as we were in there, Carlotta was in that class. I didn't know her name at the time, didn't know who she was, but I just knew this girl in class. So that was 2008 when that happened. So now fast forward several years, I'd moved back to Tennessee with taking another job, coming back home. And a friend of mine who Carlotta also knew, he had encouraged me to come to Chattanooga to try to find a church to get connected with some friends. So came down to Brainerd in the fall of 2013, heard about a small group that was starting up at a friend's house. So it was on a Tuesday night that I walked in the house, and over there in the living room sits Carlotta. And I think to myself, like, what in the world is she doing in Chattanooga? So a few minutes later, she comes up to me and we talk, and she was like, "Are you Justin?" And I said, "Yes." "Are you Carlotta?" And she said, "Yes," and told me that she'd moved up here to work at Precept and everything. So that started just a good 3-year friendship of us serving together at church and just living life together amongst the other friends as well.
So as Justin mentioned, we had a friendship before our relationship. And for me, there was a lot of details that God did before anything ever happened between us. Over the course of those 3 years serving together, I got to see his character, who he is, how he serves passionately, and began to have an interest in him. And I remember, I guess it was the summer of 2015, about almost a year or so before he even asked me out, that I had a dream one night, and ended up at the end of that dream, Justin was in it, and we had just started dating in the dream. And then right before I woke up, he had gotten down on one knee and was proposing to me in that dream. And I remember waking up thinking like, wow, okay, that was weird, and didn't really think much of that. So 6 months later, if you fast forward to maybe December 2015, I think it was, I had a time where God literally woke me up out of my sleep and told me something that was so profound. And the reason it was profound is because it was really personal to me. 5 years prior, in December of 2010, I remember driving home and just being kind of emotional and just asking the Lord, how long? Like, how long do I have to wait? And I felt like the Lord said 5 years. And you know those moments whenever like the Lord speaks and you just know like, okay, that was God, and it just stops you in your tracks. Well, that's what this was for me. And so that was in 2010. And then I'm now in December of 2015. And literally on a Sunday night that evening, the Lord literally woke me up and said, "You did not hear me wrong. I told you 5 years and I promised relationship."
I had some friends over the years since we had actually met each other here in Chattanooga to try to encourage me to ask Carlotta out. But I didn't want to just casually go into a date with her. Since we were such good friends, I didn't want to just go in half-hearted and everything and then it not work out. I was praying quite a bit to God, ask him, you know, Lord, should I ask Carlotta out or not? And if I do, really show that to me and make it clear. So it came to a point where I knew that this is what I needed to do. And Carlotta had also told me at times if I was ever open to any kind of critique with the Bible study, that she would love to get together and share that with me, because we all know that she's a professional at an inductive Bible study, working at Precept and everything. So I had a plan, and I was trying to be as sneaky with the plan as I could be. It was September 21st. And I sent her a text asking her if she would want to get coffee with me and just talk about small group stuff, knowing that what I really wanted to do was ask her on a date. But she's a detective at heart, so she was already wondering if there was more to come that evening. And at the end of the night, I told Carlotta that I would also like to ask her out on a date and see if she would want to go out and everything. And so she confidently said yes.
He asked me if I wanted to take time and pray about it and just decide, and I was like, no, I'm good, we can go. Because again, like, God had made it so clear to me with just the details from dreams to like waking me up in my sleep, or if I said like, Lord, I'm done, like instantly something would reassure me and have me just kind of cling to this promise of Justin being my husband.
So after she said yes that night, on the way home, I took a left out of the parking lot and she takes a right. And I'm just going home knowing that this felt like it was going to be more than just a 1 day or 2 dates or whatever. It felt more long term, that I was actually asking out my wife. So we had been dating, gosh, about 8 months or so. She had been in the summer camp and started really missing her a lot because we had spent quite a bit of time together over the months dating, and now she's gone and I'm spending a lot of time by myself. And at that point I really realized that yes, I love Carlotta. We hadn't told each other that yet at all, but I knew that I loved her. And we went for a hike up at Point Park, I think is what it was, at Sunset Rock and everything. And at that moment, I kind of shared my intentions of wanting to move forward with kind of pursuing marriage and see if this is what the Lord wants for us. And it was August, actually, another month or so later, that I actually told her I loved her and everything.
For so long, I have just taken care of myself and really enjoyed my independence and that aspect of life, and really was comfortable in my singleness and content in it. But being in a relationship with Justin has really showed me the need for another, and areas that I really need to grow in, and where he's really strong and I'm weak in.
Another month later, is in September, a friend of mine wanted to plan a trip to New York City for Christmas and have friends go along. And he told me, he goes, that would be a great proposal setting. And I said, absolutely. I was thinking the exact same thing. She loves Christmas trees, so I knew that I wanted to propose to her at the foot of the Rockefeller tree there in New York City.
So Justin had planned a trip to go to New York City and offered to take care of all the details for it. Told me that I could take my best friends with me.
We actually went and looked at rings, yeah. I went and talked to her parents and everything, and got their support and blessing and everything.
So we had kind of a whirlwind of a day, getting up and getting to the airport and doing all of that. I slept like 3 hours the night before because I waited till the last minute to pack. With me not feeling well, he told me, well, don't worry, today's gonna get better. And when he said that, I was like, I think he's gonna propose today. So the whole time I got myself all worked up, thinking we're getting ready to go to the top of the rock and see this sunset. Like, he's a romantic, this is where it's happening. So I like worked myself up about it. So didn't do it. We went back down to the bottom where the Rockefeller tree is, and a friend of his said, oh, here's a great place for a picture. Why don't you guys get together and take a picture? So friend's holding the camera, takes a picture, but holds it just a little bit longer to where I realize he's videoing it. Oh my goodness, this is happening right here, right now. And instead of just thinking that, I proceed to say that.
So I dropped down to one knee there in New York, and obviously she said yes.
I think that it really comes down to God's timing and trusting the Lord. Like when we think about our story and we see like 10 years ago is when we knew of each other in a totally different state, different city, and then for God to bring me here and to bring him back, and just to see his sovereign hand at work in both of our lives is such an encouragement. He is working, and just being patient and waiting on the Lord and his best, and not settling. I know that's something both of us were challenged by so many people in our lives, that we had too high of standards, and that we were waiting for somebody that was perfect. So it's been really, really awesome to see the Lord's faithfulness in our lives and in our story, and it's not just our story, it's his.
Carlotta is one of the most fun people I've ever been around. She challenges me in ways I never thought I'd be challenged or even wanted to be challenged, but it's been so good. She brings so much joy to life. Carlotta is a perseverer. She doesn't give up on things very easily and everything. So also know that if life is tough, she's going to be there to push through things and to fight for both of us. Where her heart's at. That I'm not her first priority, but God is, and then I follow in after that. So that's one of the biggest reasons why I love her and why I love being around her.